Eh bien, bonjour à tous. J'espère que vous m'entendez bien. J'espère que c'est bon, parfait. Bienvenue à ce tout premier webinaire organisé par l'Agence du numérique en santé et G NIUS. On espère sincèrement que cela va être le début d'une longue série consacrée à l'international. Un peu plus tard, je reviendrai dans le point pour vous montrer comment G NIUS, qui est le site qui aide les innovateurs à gagner du temps, peut vous accompagner sur la thématique d'export à l'international. Mais avant de passer la parole à nos invités du jour, je tiens vraiment à remercier chaleureusement nos amis allemands qui nous font l'honneur d'être présents pour ce premier webinaire qui, du coup, comme vous l'avez deviné, est dédié à l'export en Allemagne. Donc, je vais laisser Lars et, Thomas se présenter. Lars, Thomas, can you introduce you?
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Lars, would you like to start?
No, go ahead. Just
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. And thanks for the invitation, first of all. My name is Thomas Möller. I've been working for the German Ministry of Health since 3 years now in the unit for key issues regarding digital health. And our unit is dealing with some strategically relevant topics like something you will hear about in a few minutes, the digitalization strategy for health and care, for example, the German Diga approach that someone of you might know already, I guess, and some European topics like the e-health network and some other things. But just to be short in the beginning. Lars, it's your turn.
Yeah, well, thank you. Also from my side, welcome and good morning to everyone. I'm quite happy to be here. A couple of words about me, probably. I'm a lawyer. I've been working in the same unit as Thomas since 2018, since 2020 as deputy head of unit, and I'm involved in basically everything that pertains to the implementation of the Diga framework, which I will talk about later, which is our framework to assess and to reimburse mobile digital medical devices, mobile health applications, apps, and browser-based web applications, patient-centered. Exciting issue. I will talk about it in detail at a later stage. So thank you for having me. Us.
Pour vous dire, donc là, je vois que dans le sondage, on a une majorité de personnes françaises, donc je vous épargnerai mon accent anglais. Pour vous donner un peu, donc je me présente, Julien Plagne, je m'occupe du projet G NIUS, dont je vous parlerai un peu plus tard, après les échanges de Thomas et de Lars. Donc là, comment va se passer cette présentation? Nous aurons une partie donc présentée par Thomas, puis ensuite Lars. Enfin, je présenterai le service international de G NIUS pour finir après sur une session d'échange et de questions-réponses pour clôturer ce webinaire. Lars, Thomas, your turn. Souci de connexion. You can share the slide. Do you hear me? Lars, Thomas? Thomas? On a un petit souci. Thomas, tu m'entends ou pas?
Oui, je crois qu'on a un petit souci.
Oui, on a un petit souci, on a perdu Thomas.
Ouais, et Lars aussi.
Ah.
On a Louisa qui revient, c'est déjà...
Louisa, si tu veux dire quelques mots, tu nous entends?
Je vais la faire... Attends, elle peut pas parler. Je vais la...
Thomas, do you hear me?
Hello.
Perfect. You can share your slide.
Yes, I'm sorry. We had some IT
Thank you.
trouble and me, but I think Lars should redial in a few moments. But I will try to share in the meantime my slides. All right. Can you see anything on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I will start, and I hope that Lars can join in time so that he can follow up on the Diga approach after my part. But yes, so thank you very much once again for the invitation and yeah, for the opportunity to have an exchange today to give you an overview on Germany's digitalization strategy for health and care and the German Diga approach. The strategy is actually the first strategy of this kind, so it's quite remarkable. During the last years, Germany didn't have such a strategy. So yeah, we're quite proud to have one, at least after many years of digital transformation. But yeah, in our opinion, it's quite important to have something like a guiding vision, as France also does. And so yeah, this is the focus today of our presentation, strategy and the Diga approach. Yeah, with this presentation, we would like to give you a short overview of the latest developments. So not everything that happened during the last years, that would be a little bit too much, but an overview of the latest developments in the field of digital health in Germany. Our main point of orientation during the process of transformation is the digitalization strategy, which has been published in March 2023. Therefore, we are going to start with some remarks regarding the background. So why do we need a strategy? Why is it so important? And how did we work it out? And even more important, what are we concretely doing to bring the strategy to life? And the strategy is not important as itself, but it gets important when it's being implemented. So that's the even more important part. And after this introduction on the strategy, we're going to dive deeper into one very important topic in our digital health department, but also in the strategy. And as you all know, there are many points of contact and cooperation between France and Germany on this topic, the so-called Diga fast track in Germany. So why do we need a digitalization strategy? The strategy process has been initiated by the coalition agreement of the current federal government. As you all know, it's the same challenge in France than in Germany. In times of demographic change and scarce resources, digitalization in healthcare provides the chance to make healthcare better in quality and more accessible for everyone. And this aim of the strategy, or the main aim of the strategy, is to make this vision more concrete and to guide all actors within the healthcare system on the way to get there. As the German strategy process might not be familiar to everyone in this virtual room, I would like to briefly describe the most important steps on our way to strategy's publication. The visible process, so the publicly visible process, actually started in September 2022 with a kick-off event in Berlin with Minister Lauterbach and approximately 200 participants, invited guests from the healthcare system. But this was actually not the starting point of the strategy process. Before that kick-off event, we had already conducted a number of background interviews with experts from different sectors on the healthcare field, and in order to identify important focus topics, fields of action for the future strategy. And based on these interview results, 8 workshops on 8 focus topics took place in Berlin with approximately between 15 and 25 participants each in each workshop. And the main aim of these workshops was the joint development of concrete proposed measures for the emerging strategy. So not just to work out a vision, but to conceptualize concrete measures that can be implemented afterwards. In addition, we conducted 2 online surveys in order to give all the system, all interested institutions and individuals the opportunity to share their views and ideas, and to guarantee that they are reflected in the strategy. In the beginning of 2023, we finalized the strategy text, including layout, printing, and all the organizational stuff, so that the strategy could be published in March 2023. The strategy is built on 3 main pillars, which means fields of action. It's the same, so to say. The first field of action is the establishment of people-centric healthcare processes. The second one is the generation and use of high-quality data. And the third one is the development and use of benefit-oriented technologies and applications. For each field of action, we have formulated concrete short-term, mid-term, and long-term measures. In total, the strategy contains more than 50 measures. I think it's 53, as far as I know. What are we concretely doing to implement the strategy? This is the focus of the next part of this presentation. I would like to give you an impression of the core projects that we are currently implementing derived from the strategy. And the main aspect in this context is that the German Bundestag has adopted 2 major laws in December 2023, and they entered into force in March 2024. So we're just at the beginning, so to say, of the implementation, but we have made some very important steps yet, which I would like to talk about a little bit. The so-called Digital Act is the first law adopted by the Bundestag, will finally establish a nationwide electronic patient record as of 2025, the so-called EPA für alle, EHR for everyone. And this is in the center of the Digital Act. It's at the heart of this law is the transformation of the electronic patient record of the EPA into an opt-out application, which will be available to all people with statutory health insurance from 2025. France did almost the same before us. I think in France, the Mon Espace Santé was an opt-in application first, and then was transformed into an opt-out application. This is something we're going to do now in Germany with the EPA. Obligations for healthcare professionals will ensure that that important medical information is available for the care of patients. So it's not enough that everyone has an EPA, but the EPA needs to be filled and used in everyday healthcare, and this should be guaranteed by obligations for healthcare professionals to fill and use the EPA. The electronic prescription is a second very important part. The e-prescription is being established as a binding standard for prescribing medicines. It has been mandatory since the 1st of January 2025, and since then, more than, I think, 405 billion e-prescriptions have been handed in until today. Would have to check the concrete numbers, but I think that's the that's quite correct. Yeah. Regarding interoperability, our main aim is the widest possible use of IOP standards and profiles by manufacturers and providers of IT systems in the German healthcare system. In order to achieve this and to avoid that the multiple development of specifications, we improve the process of creating interoperability standards. And in particular, the existing structures of the so-called Coordination Office for Interoperability in Germany, which was founded in 2021, these structures are being transferred into a competence center for interoperability in the German healthcare system with more coordinating, a more coordinating role, I would say. There's a number of other topics addressed by the Digital Act, but I'm going to shortly touch upon two more aspects. The first one is telemedicine. We strengthened telemedicine, or we strengthened it already by removing quantitative restrictions, and we make this kind of treatment more attractive by enabling home office for medical doctors and dentists. And the second one is the Diga approach. The scope of the German Diga fast track is extended to medical devices of class 2B and integrated more deeply into everyday healthcare, but Lars will elaborate on this much more in a few minutes. The second law I mentioned, which was adopted or entered into force in March, is the Health Data Use Act, Gesundheitsdatennutzungsgesetz in German. The act has actually two main goals. Firstly, to further develop our national framework for health data use, and secondly, to pave the way for the European Health Data Space, the EHDS in Germany, which you all know, I'm sure. Therefore, the Act will allow us to build up a comprehensive, decentralized infrastructure for the use of health data for public health, research and development purposes. And in addition, we extensively permit the use of health data for purposes in the public interest. That's a quite fundamental shift of perspective. Before it was we had a list of actors which are allowed to get data access, and this changes now. The focus shifts from the actors permitted to data access to the purposes of the data use. In addition, we the healthcare providers, health insurances, researchers, and innovators will all benefit from a broad access to health data. That's the main aim of the GDNG and as well of the EHDS, as you all know. Second part is the harmonization of the quite inconsistent data protection supervision in Germany. This also plays a very important role in this regard. And last but not least, a project that is closely related to the first law, to the Digital Act, is the transformation of Gematik, our national e-health agency, into a true digital health agency in Germany. It's not a change of the name, but also of the structure and the governance procedures and much more. But maybe without going into details, just to give you an impression what it means that we transform Gematik into a digital health agency. This agency will provide operative support in the implementation of our digitalization strategy, firstly, and it will play a stronger coordinating role in the German healthcare system when it comes to digital health topics, interoperability, technical standards, applications, and so on. And the development of the Digital Health Agency is part of a third law besides Digital Act and GDNG. And this third law, the Gesundheitsdigitalagenturgesetz, GDAG, is currently being negotiated and is supposed to be adopted, hopefully in the near future. This is our plan. As a short summary, maybe, after a lot of information I've provided, what's going on now at a glance and what's coming up regarding the strategy implementation. Firstly, as I mentioned, we are reshaping the regulatory framework on the national level. I've talked about this enough in the last few minutes, and this also applies for the second point, the transformation of Gematik into a digital health agency. But thirdly, this is a new point or a third column in the strategy implementation process. We are doing some operative homework as well by working out new concepts for digitally supported healthcare end-to-end processes together with Gematik and experts from different sectors. And the first two processes we have been working on is short-term care and psychotherapy. A third one is currently being identified, but this is a third very important column of our strategy implementation process. So this was my first part on the digitalization strategy. I think I hand over to Julien now for intervention on G NIUS, and afterwards Lars will continue on the German Diga approach. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Thomas. So, comme on est une majorité de personnes parlant français, on va continuer la présentation en français. Donc, comme vous venez de l'entendre, il faut bien comprendre que chaque pays a ses propres spécificités, que ce soit au niveau des réglementations, des attentes. Il y a un message, je n'ai pas vu. Yes, the presentation will be shared after the meeting. Donc, que ce soit au niveau des réglementations, des attentes du marché ou même des habitudes locales, chaque territoire impose ses propres règles du jeu, ce qui est totalement normal. Et lorsqu'on veut s'étendre en Europe ou même à l'international, c'est vraiment crucial d'avoir une bonne compréhension des bases de chaque marché, car l'Allemagne est différente de l'Espagne ou encore de la Suède. Et c'est pourquoi sur G NIUS, ce que je vais vous montrer maintenant, on a décidé de mettre à disposition des innovateurs, pour leur faire encore gagner du temps, des fiches pays. Ces fiches pays, elles sont conçues pour faciliter la vie des innovateurs, et elles détaillent tout ce qu'il faut savoir sur les spécificités e-santé de chaque pays, les grandes tendances du marché, les attentes des régulateurs, en passant par les opportunités de collaboration ou de financement. Et aujourd'hui, on a à peu près 20 pays qui sont listés dans les fiches pays. D'autres vont arriver dans l'année qui suit. On en rajoute à peu près une tous les 2 mois ou une par mois, ça dépend. Et pour chaque pays, vous allez trouver des chiffres clés qui vont permettre de mieux cerner le marché local, les particularités de chaque système de santé numérique, mais aussi des informations qui peuvent être précieuses sur les voies d'accès au marché, pour au final s'implanter efficacement dans ces pays. De plus, vous y trouverez une série de contacts essentiels, donc les autorités, les hubs d'innovation, les groupes de soutien et même des programmes de formation qui sont dans ces pays, et bien sûr les événements qui sont incontournables dans ces lieux. Comme je dis toujours, c'est pas, vous n'allez pas être expert du pays après avoir lu une fiche pays, mais vous aurez les bases vraiment importantes, tout simplement, par exemple, savoir c'est quoi l'équivalent du ministère de la Santé en Allemagne, c'est quoi l'équivalent de la CNAM, etc. Donc, je vais vous montrer rapidement à quoi ressemble cette structure sur G NIUS. Donc, je ne sais pas si vous voyez mon partage encore. Je pense que c'est arrivé. Donc, vous retrouvez G NIUS. Pour ceux qui ne le connaissent pas et qui ont des questions, je vous mettrai dans le chat 2-3 liens importants. Et si vous avez des questions, même après, il ne faudra pas hésiter à me contacter par mail. Il n'y aura pas de problème pour répondre à vos questions. Donc, il y a différentes choses sur G NIUS, mais ce qui nous intéresse aujourd'hui, c'est ce qui se trouve dans Acteurs à l'international, qu'on trouve ici. Et on retrouve, comme je vous l'ai dit, une vingtaine de fiches qui sont ici. Donc, il commence à en avoir beaucoup. Donc, il va falloir scroller pour aller trouver la Suisse. Mais, par exemple, sur notre cas, sur l'Allemagne, vous accédez à la fiche pays et vous voyez, donc, comme je l'ai dit, les chiffres à retenir. Un ambassadeur donc le député au Parlement allemand, Mathias, qui vous explique un peu, de façon plus sympathique que la lecture, les différentes spécificités de l'Allemagne. Et après, vous retrouvez toujours dans la même ligne éditoriale de G NIUS quelque chose de simple, d'épuré, qui va à l'essentiel. Vous voyez, la page, elle n'est pas 50 000 pages. Voilà, et vous voyez un peu, voilà, ce que je vous disais tout à l'heure, ministère de la Santé, c'est ça. Le comité fédéral mixte, etc. Vous avez les associations, les initiatives de soutien à l'innovation et aussi les formations. L'accès au marché, j'en parlais tout à l'heure. Vous l'avez ici avec les différentes étapes. Donc, on vous dit, dans un premier temps, il faut entrer en contact avec les hubs. Voilà, la deuxième étape, etc. Mais je vous laisserai regarder cette fiche un peu plus longtemps après notre point. Et enfin, je vais laisser la parole maintenant à à Lars pour se retrouver juste après pour les échanges de questions-réponses. Lars, je ne sais pas si tu nous entends. Et si tu m'entends.
Oui, oui, je vous entends. Et Thomas, could you share the slides, please? Would be amazing.
Of course, 1 second.
Alors, malheureusement, je ne suis pas préparé à donner une présentation en français, alors je m'excuse and turn to English. Diga framework and strategy. The Diga framework, and you've already seen that in the in Julien's presentation, is one of the major achievements when it comes to digital health policies over the last year. The digital health, the Diga framework is a little older than the digital health strategy. The first initiatives and the first surveys we conducted go back to 2016, but it is fully in line with the mission and with the vision of the digital health strategy, and fully subscribes to at least 2 of the pillars that Thomas showed you before, which is, of course, to define people-centric healthcare processes and to focus the delivery of healthcare on the needs of the individual citizen, and also to promote benefit-oriented technologies that have an impact on the delivery of care, that improve the delivery of care, that facilitate the delivery of care, or help to increase adherence and serve a lot of other purposes. If you could turn to the next slide, please. I don't know if it's working for you, but can you see the second slide?
I can see it. I hope everyone does. What do you see, Lars? Do you see anything?
I can still see the 3 Diga success.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But I have the second slide here on my screen.
I will probably just give me a second. I will try to open the slides and try to share them myself. Yeah.
Maybe stop it's okay. Fast track procedure.
Perfect. Takes a lot of time, ways longer to France, but we get there. What is the Diga framework? The Diga framework is one of many access pathways to the German healthcare systems, and to get, let's say, manufacturers and patients together, and allow the integration of digital medical devices in the delivery of care. It's quite comparable, actually, to what France later implemented with the PECAN, prise en charge anticipée numérique framework, and it's the systems somewhat inspire each other, and we see that at a later stage, actually. So what is it, and why are we actually doing and ventured out there and started to reimburse digital health applications, which are browser-based web applications, smartphone apps, with a focus on patients and the delivery of care via digital means. It's probably no secret Germany is facing the same challenges that a lot of Western healthcare systems are facing. We've got costs that are skyrocketing. We've got a lack of workforce, and notably in terms of medical doctors, but also nurses and midwives. And we have got a demographic change, an aging population, an effect which is probably even more severe in Germany than it is in France. But we have an aging population that affects both workforce and increases the number of people that are actually in need of healthcare and care. That is why we came up, and we pretty much started from scratch here. We did not amend an existing framework, but we came up with a new framework for the assessment and reimbursement of digital health technologies, and we did not place that in the hand of the traditional institutions. You've already seen the Joint Federal Committee GBA in Julian's presentation, but we placed it with the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices, an agency that has been active in the field of digital health and digital medical devices before, and is actually doing quite a good job. The goal is to accelerate the pathway for digital medical devices, digital health technologies from the point actually where they are on the market, and make sure that there is a pathway which allows the integration into the day-to-day delivery of care within 3 months. So if you could turn to the next slide, please. What are key elements of the fast track procedure? First of all, what is a digital health applications? I already told you that it's an app, it's browser-based web applications. It always needs to be a medical device in line with the European medical device regulation. At the first step, we started with low-risk medical devices 1 and 2A. Now it can also be 2B, so we are increasing or we are enlarging the scheme. The scheme is advancing, and we'll gradually incorporating further and more complicated medical devices. And what we're actually doing is we've set up a list of criteria that are examined by the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices that range from the guarantee of data protection, data security, user friendliness, support given to medical professionals, and a lot of other criteria. Accessibility is an issue here. And of course, we want to see medical evidence, and a proof of evidence provided by the manufacturer, which can either be an influence or an effect on morbidity, mortality, quality of life, so a traditional medical benefit, or it can be something new that we are quite proud and came up with, which are structural and procedural improvements to care. So evidence can also be generated in the field of like increased patient satisfaction, better adherence, better coordination of healthcare processes. Needs to be shown the effect in studies, but there can also be other like endpoints than traditional endpoints when you try to show medical benefit. So what does the framework look like? Could you turn to the next slide, please? The framework, that's pretty much the general structure from application to reimbursement. If you are a manufacturer of a digital medical device, you can approach the BfArM even before the fast track procedure starts. There is a pre-application advice procedure. So BfArM is open to look at whatever you've got already, or whatever the manufacturer claims that he can present at whatever stage of the development of his product, can approach BfArM, and BfArM is looking at the product and will say, well, that's feasible, that's suitable for the fast track procedure. You need to, when you apply, you can show this, or you have to show this or that additional information, and then your application might be successful. We'll have a final look at it when you actually apply and approach it. Once you file an application with BfArM, BfArM has 3 months, can be extended to 6 months now for the assessment of all the criteria that BfArM looks at, and after 3 or 6 months, the manufacturer receives a final decision by BfArM, which can either be a permanent listing because the manufacturer was able to supply sufficient information on evidence and medical benefit, or if that's not the case, the manufacturer fulfills all the requirements concerning data protection, data security, and has at least some evidence, and can present a study that, if conducted according to plans, will most likely be successful, can be admitted to the reimbursement listed in the Diga directory. That's the list of all Digas that are reimbursable, can be listed on preliminary terms with the obligation to create evidence in 12 up to 24 months, and will be reimbursed as every other Diga that is listed on permanent terms. So either initially upon application or after a preliminary period of 12 months, up to 24 months, you will be admitted to the Diga registry and will be reimbursed. What is also reimbursed is the additional effort that is necessary to deliver of medical professionals, midwives, psychotherapists, physiotherapists, if they have additional efforts, if they get additional data from the Diga, if they have to adjust the therapy with the Diga while during use, these additional efforts of medical professionals are reimbursed as well. How do you get a Diga after it has been approved by BfArM, and how is it according to which terms is it reimbursed? Digas are granted upon prescription, just like every other medical device or drugs. A medical professional, a doctor, a psychotherapist will prescribe a Diga, and the manufacturer receives a reimbursement, which is during the first 12 months the manufacturer's price, the price that the manufacturer claims is just. There are certain price caps and limitations, though. Individual groups of price caps according to a particular disease. And after 12 months, there is a negotiated price, which is negotiated between the manufacturer and one single institution on the federal level, and that applies to all roughly 95 different health insurance funds that we have in Germany. To give you some numbers, and that brings me to the next slide. Up to, well, let's say a couple of days ago, last Friday, we had 315 applications. We have the majority of applications was for preliminary listing, and 45 applications initially filed for permanent listing. How many applications actually made it through? Next slide, please. At the moment, there are 55 applications listed, 35 applications listed permanently, either upon application or after successful completion of studies and the preliminary reimbursement period. 20 are currently undergoing trials and are listed on preliminary terms. Why is there such a big difference between the number of applications and the number of applications that actually made it through? First of all, the process is challenging. Sometimes people apply even though they are not suitable for the fast-track procedure. Sometimes people pull out because of the 3-month limit, and they have, because the product has to undergo major changes. Some products reapplied, which also got the number after a certain time, which also got the numbers of applications up. But again, with the number of the overall listed number of applications, we are quite happy at the moment. The field of the medical fields and diseases that are covered are increasing. We've got psychotherapy, we've got oncology, we've got physiotherapy, we've got neurology, and a lot of other diseases that can be treated with a Diga, or where the therapy can be supplemented with a Diga. And we are actually quite happy that we've started gradually, and the Digas are gradually finding their way into the system. Next slide, please. One of the achievements that we are most proud of is that a lot of applications address digital mental health. Of course, if you look at our approach of dealing with mental diseases, digital, it's just one aspect of digital mental health. There are other issues, the hybrid care, telemedicine, and a lot of other elements when it comes to a comprehensive digital mental health or a comprehensive mental health strategy. But we're quite proud that in a situation where the need to guarantee quick access to mental health services, and the number where at a time where a lot of citizens and more citizens are demanding mental health treatment, we are quite happy that 46% of all Digas focus on mental health. 9 listed up preliminarily, and the majority is listed permanently with sound clinical evidence. Next slide. These numbers are a bit outdated, but just to give you an idea about the development of prescriptions. Again, we started with a small number of applications in 2020. We started to reimburse the first application in 2020, and the number of applications, the prescriptions increased. At the end of last year, or last September, should update that in the next couple of days. We had about 374,000 prescriptions. There's room for improvement. It's not been a big bang. It's a gradual introduction to the system. But what is quite important is the number of prescriptions between 2022 and 2023 increased by 67, I guess roughly 69%. So there is a huge, there's an accelerating uptake of Digas, and the prescription of Diga becomes more frequently. Which brings me to the end. We are quite happy that we are no longer a first mover in Europe. A lot of countries are venturing in the field of reimbursing digital health applications. In France, of course, it's the PECON framework. Austria is on the way. Belgium certainly is on the way. I've received word from colleagues in Israel that are currently implementing mechanisms to reimburse digital health applications, notably in the field of mental health. There are also other rumors that say that some countries in the South Asian region, but also in Europe, are currently pursuing a way to deal with the phenomenon of digital health applications and actually put it at use of the health system. What is new to the system? Thomas already mentioned the major overhaul with the strategy and the pursuant legislation. First of all, as I've already mentioned, we've started with low-risk medical devices, focus on standalone technology nowadays, and after the legislative overhaul, it is possible to also apply with hybrid and more complex processes and schemes that involves the treatment of a medical of a physician and digital interventions, so hybrid care, in particular telemonitoring applications at BfArM, which these applications have become part of the Diga framework. We made sure that we strengthen the integration into hybrid care procedures of Digas into hybrid care procedures. We're also strengthening the technical integration of Digas into the delivery of care. Digas are currently underway and will be probably the first category of medical applications that will be able to export data into the patient record, EPA, that Thomas mentioned, from next year on. We've accelerated and facilitated the application procedure and made that more flexible. One of probably the most important elements of the legislation is that from 2026 onwards, we're going to publish information on the uptake and patient satisfaction. Prompts are an issue, and from 2026 onwards, we are going to trying to collect and publish data on these issues, and we'll link that with financial incentives. 20% of the remuneration shall be based on success, which can be uptake, patient satisfaction, and adherence. And that is something which will be we will provide more detailed information on in the next year or next month, actually. Yeah, next month. That pretty much brings me to an end. I think I've exceeded my time limit a bit, but yeah, just to give you the final slide. If you are more interested in what we've mentioned, there's both information available on the Diga framework or the strategy. I think the slides will be shared after the presentation. I think Julien already mentioned that. And yeah, I think that's it from my side. I think that's enough time for question and answers, I guess.
Merci. Thanks. Maybe Louisa, est-ce que tu nous entends? Si tu veux dire quelques mots. Tu avais des soucis de connexion au début. Bon, je pense que tu nous entends pas. Donc, on va passer aux questions-réponses. Donc, n'hésitez pas à poser vos questions dans le chat et nous essaierons d'y répondre le plus directement possible. Donc, n'hésitez pas à poser les questions dans le chat.
Ici, ça facilite, ça rend les choses plus faciles. Vous pouvez bien poser vos questions en français. Nous allons répondre en anglais, mais si c'est plus facile, c'est aussi une possibilité.
Oui, il n'y a pas de souci là-dessus. Première question.
Yes, I can start maybe with the first question in the chat on technological standards in place today to support interoperability in digital health. Yes, there are some standards in place or are currently developed. We have one main pillar in this regard. They are so-called medical information objects, MIOs. These are data packages, so to say, that are being developed by the MIO 42. That's a company, a sub-organization of the Doctors Association, the Federal Doctors Association in Germany, and they are mandated to develop these MIOs, like a vaccination passport, or another MIO could be a discharge report for hospitals, for example. These standards are currently being developed and implemented. I think last when did the MIO process start? I think maybe 3 years ago or something like this. And these standards shall be more or shall be used broadly in the future, and are also supposed to be developed or further developed so that they become usable for the cross-border use in Europe as well. This maybe as a first part. Lars, would you like to add something?
Yeah, probably just one minor, just one sub information, if you want to phrase it like that or coin it like that. There are also specific standards and interoperability standards for Diga. So the idea is to have structured data for the export from Diga to digital health record that we are going to start next year. So there are various standards already defined by this institution, and what we've done with the latest legislation to actually strengthen the interoperability mechanisms, both in terms of technology and of terms of semantics. So there's going to happen a lot more in the months ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. We have another question. How many French companies did apply to the fast track access of Diga?
Oh, that's a good question. I know that there's at least one company that made it successfully. I think there must have been others, but I at least know one example that actually made it through. I think there was another one, and I don't know how many numbers, how many applications among the 215-ish. There might have been other ones, I guess. I would have been surprised if that's not the case.
Thanks. We have another question from Jan on ISO 27001.
Yeah, there is an obligation for an information security management. Who and at which point it has to be provided is something that I would ask. That is something that can be addressed in a pre-submission meeting at BfArM, and BfArM will certainly give information if the information that can be provided is sufficient. I would refer that to my colleagues at BfArM.
Is the list of approved applications somewhere available online?
Yeah, it's available at the web pages of the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. If you follow the QR code that was at the end of our slides, we will be directly referred to the Diga registry, and you can have a look at it. Yeah.
Another question, is remote patient monitoring within the framework of Diga? If yes, what is the class?
Yeah, since must have been March, I guess, 2024, somewhere around that date, it can be part of the Diga framework. I'm not really sure if you can have a monitoring application that is class 2A. That might be possible. It seems rather likely that it will be 2B. Depends on what is supposed. Depends on the interpretation of the Annex 8 Rule 11. But it's rather likely, I guess, if it's supposed to deliver valid information that influence the treatment and give individualized recommendations on the on therapy, that it might be to be. Depends on the application in question, but is likely.
Thanks. How is the communication between a lawmaker and industry in Germany about Diga?
Depends who you ask. I would say we are quite open to proposals, to discussions. It's pretty much a given thing that we can't necessarily fulfill all the suggestions and wishes that the industry is directing at us. We also have to have a look at the wider system and what is beneficial to the system and what is beneficial to patients from our point of policy. But again, I think we hope to be quite approachable. We can't satisfy all requests and always. But the idea is, and that is probably one point that I would like to make, which is quite important. The Diga framework is something that wasn't created like in pretty much this office or in the office of a colleague of some kind of civil servants locked away from reality, but something that was created in a long process of discussions with manufacturers, medical professionals, cost payers, and healthcare professionals. So you name it. We brought everyone at the table, and it is a learning system. We are receiving questions from BfArM on a day-to-day basis on how some piece of legislation or regulation was meant to be interpreted, and again, of course, we are approachable. We are approachable to industry. We are approachable, but also to patients' proposals. We are approachable to proposals from health insurance companies. Whoever is willing to make suggestions, we will certainly listen. We can't fulfill them all suggestions all the
time. Another last question: how is the funding of Diga?
Okay, it's a bit complicated, but suffice it to say for that question that the costs are covered by the patient's statutory health insurance fund. Just to give you an idea, in Germany we have got a population of roughly 83 million citizens. About like 90%-ish are covered by public health insurance. And the other one is covered either by some kind of extra scheme for soldiers and civil servants, or by private health insurance. And it's the individual health plan. The manufacturer will like send his bill to the patient's health insurance fund if he's part of the 90%. If he isn't, if he's part of the other 10%, he sends a bill to the individual patient, who will then take care and make sure that that someone receives money. That's the system.
Thank you all. We are reaching the end of this webinar. Special thanks to Lars and Thomas. And you will be able to find this webinar in replay very soon. Merci à tous pour votre participation à ce webinaire. Un grand merci à Thomas et Lars d'être intervenus. J'espère que le format vous a plu et que vous serez présents peut-être pour les prochains webinaires sur l'international dédiés à d'autres pays. En attendant, je vous ai mis un grand message où vous pouvez retrouver en un seul lien tout ce qui pourrait vous intéresser sur G NIUS. Je vous invite à vous abonner sur LinkedIn et sur la communauté pour recevoir toutes les actualités des événements. Vous pouvez retrouver aussi nos podcasts. Et si vous avez des questions, ce n'est pas parce que le webinaire est fini que vous ne pouvez pas nous en poser par mail s'il y a des choses qui restent en suspens. En tout cas, merci à vous tous et on se retrouve sur G NIUS après le webinaire et sinon à très bientôt pour un autre webinaire. Bonne journée à tous.